All right, on Mondays, we dive into what's happening in state politics on both sides of the river. In our first half hour, we talked all things Illinois. And now on the Iowa side, political leaders on both sides of the aisle are sounding the alarm after a white supremacist group marched at the state capitol this weekend. So this is the group Patriot Front, which is classified as a white supremacist group by the FBI. In fact, on their own website, Patriot Front says it's a white nationalist group with goals to reclaim America for what they call the European race. This video was taken on Saturday in Des Moines as the group marched in protest of immigration. The group could be heard shouting slogans like "One Nation Against Invasion." Now, in a statement, Iowa Democratic Party Chair Rita Hart says Patriot Front, quote, primarily exists to spread hate and fear. She also said, quote, this group, their scare tactics, and their hate have no place in Iowa. An Iowa Republican Party Chair, Jeff Kaufman, says he's never heard of the group, saying, quote, they sound like morons. Kaufman says he and the Republican Party will always condemn actions like this. And this was the scene at the Capitol in Des Moines this morning. Today, lawmakers heard public comments on a controversial bill that would get rid of some Iowans' civil rights protections based on gender identity. Hundreds of protesters attended. If the bill is passed, it would remove protections for trans Iowans in areas like housing, employment, education, and more.
We deserve better than this. We deserve legislators that focus their attention on resources, housing, agriculture, cancer rates, and not birth certificates.
Gender identity is magically elevated to a protected class with preferential and unfair advantage.
Now, a quick point of clarification, Iowa's Civil Rights Act prohibits discrimination based on a wide variety of measures, including race, sex, religion, disability, and gender identity. There are no preferential advantages specifically for trans Iowans like that woman just alleged. After today's comments, Iowa Republicans advanced the bill out of subcommittee, and now there could be a House vote as soon as Thursday. But what else are lawmakers advancing through the State House and Senate? For that, we turn to Dana Searles of our sister station, WOI in Des Moines. Dana, thank you for joining us once again. I want to start with an education bill that is quickly moving out of both a subcommittee and a House committee. Tell me about this obscenity bill. What's happening here?
Yeah, so this is, again, kind of like what we touched on last week. It's a bill that's expanding on Iowa's 2023 law that removed books depicting sex acts from the schools. So this bill that is moving through the legislature now would expand that to essentially public libraries or education institutions is the exact language in the bill. So basically what it's doing is repealing Iowa's code. So right now, Iowa's code, it says obscene means any material depicting or describing sexual content. So what it would do is take that obscenity protection essentially for librarians out of Iowa's code. So that would mean that public libraries and education institutions would not be able to have obscene material in their buildings. It is eligible for debate on the House floor now, so it is moving pretty quickly.
Makes sense, because the next one we're going to talk about is another education bill. This one originated in the Senate. It would require videos of so-called fetal development to be shown in classrooms across Iowa. What's the status of this bill?
Yeah, so this bill just this past week actually passed out of the Senate debate. So it's made its way through an entire chamber. And just a refresher, a reminder, for a bill to become law, it has to pass out of both the House and the Senate. So all it has to do now is go through the House chamber, and then that would go to Governor Reynolds' desk to be signed into law. So this bill that clearly has made a lot of traction and a lot of headway through the legislature, it would require curriculum to be added into health classes for students relating to pregnancy and fetal development, and this would be for grades 4 through 12. Originally, when this bill was proposed, it was for grades 1 through 12, but an amendment on the debate floor changed that to 4 through 12, and that was unanimous approval for the amendment. So basically, their curriculum would include instruction that is relating to human development inside the womb. It would also have to include an ultrasound video that shows the presence of the brain, heart, and other vital organs in early development. And then it would also have to show a rendering that would show cell growth throughout every stage of pregnancy. pregnancy. So that's directly from the bill, the curriculum that would have to be added into these health classes, grades 4 through 12. So kind of just what they touched on, just to sum it up in debate. I mean, Democrats are saying that this would show, a political bias in the classroom, but Republicans argued back, saying that it would just be based solely on facts.
Well, not an education bill, but another one related to kids is all about drag shows. What's happening there?
Yeah, so another one that brought a huge crowd to the Capitol, but basically what it would do is ban minors from attending drag shows or drag events, and it would also make it would make a felony if it would make it a felony if somebody knowingly brings a minor to a drag show. So, like I said, subcommittee hearing drew a large crowd at the Capitol, and also if you look on the legislature's website, there is a long list of lobbyist declarations for this bill, both for and against. It was pretty even for both for and against. So it'll be interesting to see where this one goes from here, because there is a lot of attention on it. But the two main things that it would do would ban minors from drag shows and also make it a felony if somebody knowingly brought a minor to a drag show.
All right, Dana, last one to talk about today. What is happening with law enforcement and immigration in Iowa?
Yeah, so this is another one, like we've been saying. I mean, the storyline is kind of a lot of crowds at the Capitol this past week, but this happened towards the end of the week, and basically the lawmakers advanced a bill that would make U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement, otherwise known as ICE, it would make those duties required by law enforcement. So it has a handful, like a list of different things that could be required if this bill were to become law. But first, it would allow local law enforcement to partner directly with ICE on operations. It also gives these local and state law enforcement agencies power to partner with ICE and deport undocumented immigrants that have criminal charges. It just kind of would really enforce that partnership with ICE and local law enforcement. So there were people like the former Marshalltown police chief who was there. He was speaking against the bill, saying, it hurts the trust between immigrant communities and the police, something that they've been trying to build in Marshalltown, but something that those advocating for the bill continue to harp on was that they believe this bill would, keep communities safe. So like I said, a lot of discussion on that. I'm sure changes will be made and things will be talked about, but that one was at the end of the week that brought a lot of people out to the Capitol, and that bill passed out of the subcommittee along party lines.
Especially, I mean, that'll be especially interesting going forward, as there's all sorts of questions when you talk about immigration from a state perspective as opposed to the federal perspective. So certainly one to watch. Dana,
Absolutely.
As always, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks.
For you guys at home, if you want to catch up on all of our political coverage, you can do so by going to WQAD.com and clicking on the As Seen on TV tab.